Greetings, iOS Nation. This is Rene from Tippy.com. Welcome to our weekly show focused on everything iPhone, from how-tos and news to app and accessory reviews. This is iPhone Live.
iPhone Live is brought to you by the Tippy iPhone Accessory Store, your one-stop shop for cases, cables, chargers, and much, much more. Check out store.tippy.com. See you there.
It's Wednesday, November 9, and joining me tonight is the co-host of Iterate.tv and the CIO of Nickelfish, Seth Clifford. How are you, Seth?
I'm doing well, Rene. How you doing?
Very well, thank you. You are looking footloose and fancy-free.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the end of a long day with a fun podcast, so I'm ready to have a good time.
You mean this podcast, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
Why not?
Yeah.
We'll try.
Yeah.
Also joining us is the host of iPad Live and Zen and Tech, Georgia. How are you? Oh, and Girls Gone Gadgets. I'm sorry. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm exceptionally excited because we have two special guest stars today. So I'm thrilled to be on the podcast.
Should we introduce them? Should we keep the mystery going?
Yeah, let's keep it a secret. Let's let them know because they're going to find out soon enough.
All right. Our special guest tonight, the dynamic duo from the unofficial Apple weblog, TUAW, and the just-released ebook, Talking to Siri. It is Erica Sadun and Steve Sande. How are you guys?
We're good. Thank you for having us.
Now, you spoke when Steve's mouth moved, so it's going to be very confusing in the video later.
I've got a really high voice.
Nice. Well,
And so great. You have to keep the lips moving while I talk, Steve.
it's like the worst Jackie Chan movie ever. All right, so the reason we have you on now, and I guess we'll start with Steve, just because I can see him, so I can latch onto him fastest. You guys went ahead with blazing speed and released a book called Talking to Siri, Learning the Language of Apple's Intelligent Assistant.
Why, yes, we did. And we'd like to hear all about it.
I want to know first how you did it so quickly and how you did it so well, because as you will hear soon, Seth and I were both highly impressed with the contents.
Well, it's kind of funny how this entire thing came out. We started hearing about, on October 4th, of course, started hearing about the iPhone 4S and how it was going to have this wonderful feature called Siri. And just in conversation, Erica and I were kind of going back and forth going, isn't this cool? This thing's going to be so great. It's going to allow us to really have this verbal interface with our devices. We didn't know if it was really going to be as good as it is or not. But
and you were relieved when they actually introduced it, right?
Yeah. But it was kind of funny because we talked about it. We got a kind of a loose, I don't know what you want to call it, kind of an outline put together. And I think we actually started the writing on October 19th, and we actually got the book out on the 26th.
Wow. That's impressive.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
NaNoWriMo's got a whiplash from that one.
Well, and it's funny because I just announced to all my buddies that, I kind of fell off the NaNoWriMo wagon this year. I started up, I got to about 3,800 words, and I just said, I can't do it this year. I cannot. But the great thing is that Erica and I really think alike, I think. Maybe. Something like that. But we kept in contact. Strangely enough, as I was writing it, I was sitting in a hospital room. My wife had her knee replaced, so she was on drugs. I was sitting there just typing away and talking to my phone and having a great time. And really talk about just, being able to pump out words fantastically.
Forget full screen apps. That's the key to productivity right there.
Yeah.
Erica, what was it like trying to get a grasp on Siri in a really quick way so you could put enough into the book?
Well, first of all, we cheated a bit because we really did start doing a lot of research before the iPhone 4S actually debuted. I mean, we were going into the firmware, decompiling things to see how they worked. We were, looking at all the videos, all the screenshots. anytime there was any kind of demonstration of this stuff, we were zaprudering it. And honestly, even though we really started writing around the 19th-ish, we had already put together so much in terms of outline and ideas and so forth. So we had a lot to build off of.
So you must have heard Scott Forstall's voice going through your head almost as much as Siri's.
I started having night.
It is blow away.
They offered me drugs to make the Scott Forstall voice disappear, but I figured if it worked, it would hurt the book.
The book came first.
That's big. So,
Chicken.
What's the, maybe Steve can answer this, what's the basic organization? How are you presenting this information?
Well, you have to excuse me. This is my 4th podcast today, so it's.
So you're saying you're a pro. It's easy for you at this point.
Yeah.
He's saying he saved the best for
He
last.
barely knows where he is right now. You're on the Tippy Show, Steve. It's not a dream. You did agree to it.
Starts here. What?
I said it's not a dream. You did agree to it.
It's a nightmare. Oh my God! But anyway, 4 major sections: intro to using Siri, topics. The topics are various things like going in and doing reminders, doing email messages, all the various things you could do. Dictation, which really talks about how to go in and keep up a good conversation with Siri and to be able to create longer messages or even write a book. You could do it. And 4th is fun and games, which is really actually pretty fun because we talk about some of the silly and bizarre things that you can do with Siri. A lot of them, I think, have been tweeted around, but we have some items in there that are, I think, kind of special to our book, and it's a lot of fun.
Do you have any favorites, Erica?
I've got to say the wolf from How is Babby Formed is right near the top of my list because I had to work so hard. I was sure that baby was possible through Siri. And all the tweaking until I finally managed to get Siri to roll over and give me How is Babby Formed. It was a triumph.
Is that a lot of the key to talking to Siri, is figuring out how to phrase things when you're sending it your query?
Well, normally I would say yes, but I think I'm going to change that to, oh God, yes. And that's what the entire book is. It's helping you figure out with this enormous vocabulary how you can best express yourself to get the most from Siri.
Because one of your great posts was how to tell Siri to do something with your wife and not make someone into your wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a real world situation, actually, that happened with Mike Rose.
Anyone who knows Mike Rose now finds that, yeah. Erica is now illegally married to Mike Rose in 2 jurisdictions.
It's not illegal in certain countries.
Well,
that could get you in trouble.
Yeah.
Of course, my other husband, yeah, it probably is illegal. Never mind.
Most major jurisdictions.
You don't want Siri to let out any secrets either.
Well, Georgia actually had a lot of fun with that. The minute she took my phone, Steve, she kept saying, call me, insert expletive here, and not telling me. And then I would later try to use Siri, sometimes on the air.
The most wonderful was when he used it on the air, and neither of us actually knew until it actually said it on air live.
Yeah.
And that cracked me up.
It was...
that reminds me of a tip we got today at TUAW. This guy has developed this service where if you talk to Siri, you can basically tell it to, text this company and give it wire transfer money commands using SMS, okay? And I'm thinking to myself, good gosh, why would anybody ever develop this service? Because the second your friend tells you, by the way, can I use your phone to call my mom? You know he's going in the corner and telling Siri, text all the money to me.
Yeah.
Or
yes, Erica, what is the name of that application, and how do I get Rene to download it?
Okay, hold on. It was like Vertex or something?
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, something odd like that. Well, and we were joking about it. You talk to, you want to send a text message and say, Seth, you look like $1 million today. And there goes $1 million into Seth's bank account. So
It's called Venmo.
Then, what's funny is we first got the iPhone 4S during the Singleton conference. They had a lot of Mac and iOS geeks in one room at the same time, and a lot of them messing around with Siri, asking it the most ridiculous things imaginable. And we were amazed at how much Apple had actually programmed into it, how much it was able to answer.
Yeah.
They gave her a personality, and even better, they gave her a personality which has quirks and fun.
It's like a Pixar character. It's so engaging.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant because it has taken something that is an inanimate object as your phone and not only made it personified, but made it personified and helpful. So people will become addicted to using it. And Rene, what happened to you when when Siri did not work for a day?
I was absolutely abandoned. I've become so lazy, so unused to typing on my iPhone anymore that it became a chore to actually start typing again. I was despondent when they had the great Siri outage of 2011.
And you said that you just decided you weren't.
Yeah, I didn't text anybody. I didn't.
Just like,
yeah.
I'm just going to wait.
But
so it's made you become like dependent upon
I know.
it. It's your friend.
Mean little robot.
Yeah, and the way that it answers, say, instead of just saying no, which would have been the proper answer, it'll say, I'm afraid I am not able to do that. It's the same thing as no, but by making it into a sentence, it really gives it a lot more character.
I'd love to have that job. I'd love to be the people at Apple who get to program in all those. What stupid things will they ask us today? Oh, let's fill that in.
Now, you do know that when you use Siri, you are allowing Apple to collect absolutely everything you ever say.
You know, I did a post about this a while ago. I used to work at a customer insight company that did advanced analytics for people who, especially in shopping, so that if you bought Coke and diapers, they would learn all sorts of things about you. So I pretty much figured the minute I heard about Siri that this was Apple's big play into customer insight, so that eventually they can start selling back this data not only to their application creators, but to the competitors, the complementary services. It was just, the doors just flew open wide, Erica.
Well, when you read their privacy policy, they do absolutely reassure you that your information will not be used unless Apple can sell it.
I'm hoping it's anonymized and aggregated and all those other, keywords that make us be able to sleep at night.
As Google has proven, it doesn't matter how aggregated it does, you're going to get a lot of personal information in there.
I can identify Steve just by what he buys at the 7-Eleven.
Yes, Erica, that's actually something that's a serious privacy issues are always a serious concern for me. Yet, I think that the pull for using Siri and what I can get out of it would pull me to not worry about it as much, just because I would figure that other people are going to be saying much more interesting things, and if they were going to choose to pilfer my voice, they would probably be very, very bored. Seth, does it bother you that they're taking all of the information that you ask? Where to hide the body, et cetera, et cetera.
No,
I'm going
I
to
don't.
defer to Steve.
Where is the whiskey stash?
I don't care about the little things like that. It's stuff like if I decide to dictate an entire email, or if I'm writing it in like a journaling app and I'm speaking all that stuff to it. Those are the things that I'm probably not really thinking about, and I'm just like, wow, this is so much easier. But that's where you're actually giving up a lot of information that has to get sent and processed and brought back to you. So it's not, remind me to pick up milk when I'm near the store. It's, 2 or 3 paragraphs of stuff that you needed to get out of your head really fast.
Hey, baby, when you hide the body, make sure of that.
Right, exactly. It's the devil's in the details, right?
So that's what they're hoping for. They're hoping that the people at Samsung are going to be using Siri to do all of their coding, and they have it naturally. They don't have to ask a judge for an injunction against it.
Siri is the opiate of the masses. And anything that's cute, we'll roll over for anything that's cute.
It's true.
I think that's part of it. In the United States, I don't know if you saw that story that was going around the other day, but somebody wrote up a post about why Siri was a woman, which is only in a couple of countries. But, the reason that they really did that, said that apparently we're programmed from the womb to really respond to female voices. And if that's the case, how come I hated my Garmin device telling me where to go.
Because Steve and I have hung around several of the
That's
same.
a male thing for sure. Yeah.
Steve and I have been to several of the same navigation vendors, and they always tell us the British lady is the best-selling voice.
Yeah.
That goes back though to men and asking directions. Just.
I'm just so.
I think they should have. You should have eventually. I'm sure we should have like an option whether we would rather it be, a British sounding male, Darth Vader. Some people would rather have someone that would be yelling and swearing at them the entire time while Siri talked.
The thing that's interesting to me is that, and this again goes back to my navigation nightmares, is that the original navigation apps, the voice sounded so disappointed in you. Oh, recalculating. Oh, you didn't turn. Like, it was such a failure every time you went the wrong way. And Siri doesn't make me feel that way. She makes me feel a little bit happy.
Yeah.
I will assure you that my driving is always a disappointment to Navigon.
Mine too.
Recalculating.
So, Erica, is there any basic? Is it just a trial and error system, or is there actually any logic built around how Siri wants you to talk to it?
First of all, Siri likes when you enunciate your words.
Oh.
Yeah,
I know. Oh.
We're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. They said probably one of the greatest things that will be just the wonderful feature of Siri is that it will create a generation of people who enunciate beautifully. That's cool.
Oh my gosh, are you saying that Siri is training us?
Yes.
This is a Skinner box? Oh my gosh.
It's
now suddenly clear. I just got the insight. Siri is a Skinner box for all iOS owners.
It was made by some jerk at Juilliard. And going to teach us how to... we will have diction finally. I'm going to hate it. Everyone will be enunciating and everything. The Actors Studio guy will win. We saw today, iFixit decided to take an extra peek under the covers, under Siri's robe. If you're in the UK, then that's a guy's robe, so it's perfectly fine. And they found an extra infrared sensor for the raise to speak function. Steve, do you think this is one of the reasons Apple, has so far deigned not to put it on older hardware?
Well, that could be one very good reason, but you've always had the proximity sensor. To me, it seems like it would just be, and I don't know, but I would think that you'd be able to just use the existing proximity sensor to do the same type of thing. I mean, really, all it needs to do is understand that you just picked up the phone and you put it near your head. What's the big problem there?
It's not rocket science.
And a separate item, but I don't know. I think they're just doing it because it gives you something to sell on the iPhone 4S.
Georgia thinks the infrared light makes it more like a Cylon.
Well, that could be.
Is Siri a Cylon? The next thing to ask. Would it be because that perhaps the old infrared was to turn the proximity phone, to turn the phone off during this, and they need a separate circuitry in order to turn on Siri in comparison to it?
I think they said it's because because of the way Siri activates, it needed an extra sensor to make it more reliable when you simply raise it to your ear and start talking.
Now,
it's
does anyone
what us
actually
engineers call a kludge. Basically, my belief is that the normal proximity sensor, assuming that they got this correct of what it does and so forth, but that the normal proximity sensor simply was too long in its latency.
Okay.
And if what I was reading today is correct, this thing is pinging all the time. It's not high power consumption, so it's not going to kill your battery, but it is looking for a closeness to your ear far more often than the normal proximity sensor does, because I can assure you with my iPhone 4, I face dial all the time by accident. Yes. So I think they did this just to give it better reliability because it wasn't working right. By the way, new antennas, rock.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, seriously.
Good joke there.
The network pause play button that was on the older iPhone no longer functions for me on the new one. All I had to do was touch the side on the old one. It would stop any inappropriate internet activity I was doing while I had a conversation, and then I could let go and it would start up again. And this new one is no help at all.
Oh, bummer.
So, Erica, you're saying that Siri is constantly wanting to get close to you.
Siri loves us.
Seth looking at Siri now almost like it's like Hal. So Seth, did that just give you the Wiggins?
No, I can't wait to get that thing from ThinkGeek that actually has the whole HAL little tower next to it.
Oh, it's definitely happening.
So cool.
Great.
You welcome our robot overlords.
I do. It's time for humanity to take a step in a new direction, and I think robot enslavement is a good start.
I love the way they designed Siri to actually have a somewhat troubled and traumatic past with Hal. I mean, whenever you ask her about him, you know, she gets very defensive. She starts having an attitude. She gives you some back talk. I mean, it was not a good breakup.
It was a terrible breakup, and that Kit from Knight Rider did nothing to help mend fences there.
God.
You should see what happened in the new series. It's not pretty.
Oh yeah, Siri season 2. Do you think?
No, that would be Series 2.
Nice.
Oh.
Da-da-da, crash.
Siri gets a haircut and starts taking cooking classes to try new stuff. It's weird.
Then she discovers whiskey, Seth, and the whole season goes downhill.
It's whenever she has a kid. Let's say it. That's
Breaking Bad meets Siri, and it's just not a good show. Do you guys? Let me ask this to Steve first. Do you think that because Apple said that Siri is in beta, that we're really just using the first step towards voice-driven interface from Apple, and they have an aggressive plan to increase the functionality sooner rather than later?
You know, my personal thought on that is that the reason that they labeled it as beta, and is so that we wouldn't hopefully get all upset whenever we have these outages. And I have a funny feeling that they're probably like a lot of things that come out from Apple, they're probably overwhelmed right now by the acceptance of this. I don't know what they expected, but frankly, I find that people who have the iPhone 4S are using it a lot. I use it to set an alarm. I use it to do things like, set a timer when I'm grilling. I use it to send text messages. I use it to dial. I use it really for a lot of things. And, they were probably thinking, we'll send this out. Some people will use it. It's not going to be that exciting. Well, it's taken off. So, they're probably in the process of trying to ramp up all the servers and all the back-end devices that they need back there. And, trying to get everything to work. I don't know. I don't think they've got anything.
Were they running it on BlackBerry servers by any chance? I mean, I can't explain how this is happening. They built this huge server farm, and yet Siri still can't find the network.
She doesn't use the map program well either.
Yeah, because outside the U.S., she doesn't do direction. Like it'll come back and say I can't do location. Then you'll ask her the time, and she says I can't do time at your location, and tells you where you are. It's she's very frustrating at times.
When Siri wasn't working for everybody, like a week or so ago, I had no problems at all. And then just a couple days ago, I was standing at my desk doing something, and I just needed to leave a reminder or set a calendar or something just little that I wasn't really thinking about, and it kept saying oh, I'm having trouble doing that right now. And I'm like, what do you mean you're having trouble? Come on. And it just...
I pay you.
I totally forgot that there were issues with it because it had been so good for me for so long. It was like the first little bit of shine off of it,
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, the thing that I find frustrating is that Siri will tell you when she has network problems, but dictation won't. It'll just come back empty. So you'll try again, and it'll come back empty again. And I don't know about you guys, but my brain cannot process that it might not be working. I think it's me, so I try to say it better, and then it's blank again.
Yeah.
Don't say this nicely.
At least Siri lets you down easy.
Yeah, she's just not there for me.
But talking about Siri letting me down, I've been kind of hoping that Siri would be coming to my 4, so I don't necessarily need to upgrade.
You haven't bought an iPhone 4S yet?
See, it wasn't me.
I'm shocked, just shocked.
No, I know. But by Apple support has said that there's no current plans to offer Siri on older devices. Now, does that mean that there are just no plans now, and I should hold out hope, or should I really let it go and that they're going to be keeping it onto the 4S in hopes that people will buy more 4Ss?
Do you have a sense on this, Eric? I know they've got it running on a 4 fairly well on jailbreak, but the Apple support guy is not going to have any deep-seated knowledge of this, is he?
Well, I've written about this several times, and it is my deep-seated belief that Apple is not going to take its premier feature on its premier product and water down that brand by deploying it to other devices too soon. The fact is that Siri is the must-have feature on the iPhone 4S, and it needs to be there for another 6 months or so before they even consider going to other platforms. And beyond that, they're still just rolling it out. We've had Siri outages. We've all gone through the shakes, through the emotional trauma, the unbelievable separation anxiety when we can't get through to Siri to dictate. It's very hard. And because of this, because it's in beta, because it's not fully implemented, because in 2012 there's just beginning to roll out Italian and Japanese and some other languages.
Canadian.
That's gonna be
Sorry, I can't do accents. That was my attempt to do an A, like I don't even know how to say Poutine. How do you even say that word?
Putin.
Fine, thank you. Exactly. So what I'm trying to say is I think Apple is making a very smart move not doing deployment. Do I think that technologically there's anything standing between Siri and deployment on a 3GS or a 4 or any of the iPads? No. What about on the Mac? It will take a little bit of extra programming, but I don't think there's anything standing in that way either. And as they do further integration into the operating system and into third-party services where Apple can turn a bottom line of profit by sharing their stuff with paid vendors, I mean, it's just going to get more and more popular. So is it going to these other devices? Yeah, absolutely. Is it going there in the next 6 months?
They're going to need a bigger money bin, is what you're saying. Well, here's the other question I had, Steve, because the other question I had is, like, when you look at the iPhone 4S and even the other iPhones, they're always connected, Steve. But with an iPad, some people are buying only Wi-Fi iPads, and then they'll leave their house and suddenly Siri won't work anymore. And that seems like kind of an un-Apple-y experience.
Well, maybe the iPad 3 would be the first. You've got to buy it with 3G. I don't know. But yeah, good point, because all of a sudden you would be off the network. It's really going to make people upset. If they are used to using it, if they're happy with using it, if they're using Siri on the iPad 3 to control their television or something like that, yeah, they're going to be upset if they walk out of the house and they're unable to do that. So maybe not.
Yeah. I got to find a Starbucks. I need my Siri.
Yeah.
What is
Tomorrow,
this typing
I'm going
thing
on
that people do?
air flight, and I will be without Siri for 4.5 hours.
Ooh.
No go-go?
Withdrawal. Siri withdrawal.
Oh.
I have kids.
I just saw a lot of sympathy.
Siri escape.
The other thing that was interesting is there was this blog post where it was basically talking about photos under glass. It was from a former Apple engineer, Brett Victor at Worry Dream, and he was talking about how we call it multi-touch now, but all we're really doing is moving photos around under glass. And he believes that Apple is going to go beyond this. And, maybe that is Siri, but he was thinking even more tactile interfaces. Georgia, is Siri and multi-touch not enough for you yet? Do you demand these, like a Muppet doll be your interface or something?
I don't exactly know how that would happen. I can see them using a Kinect-like 3D technology so that you can interface with nothing, but to actually interface with other things, I don't know. I don't know how that would actually work, and I think that might be more intrusive than I need my iPhone to be.
The thing that's hard for me is, like, Seth, you're a developer. You have a team of designers, and Apple is creating products that make design, Siri doesn't have a visual design interface.
Yeah, it's true. But I mean, that's still just one way of interacting with your device. And if you read through this article, there's so much about it that makes sense, just given that, not everyone is going to like Siri the way that we probably like Siri. And I think that it'll be very popular and people will use it, but there's still, so much of our world is still experienced, through tactility. So the biggest points in the article were basically like, there's one plane that we're dealing with right now, and there's so many things in our world that we touch every day that have heft and weight and and a feel to them that's different than flat glass, and that's everything around us. And just like we have more than one sense, Siri is one way to interact with the device, and it's not always the best way. Obviously, if you're in a very quiet area where you can't holler at your phone, it's not the best way. So I think it's really an interesting article to read, just to kind of extrapolate how we think about touch and how advanced it is right now. But really, we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of what the human body perceives as touch. It's really just one tiny bit of this interface that we've got so far.
Erica's yelling at me in the chat room that Siri does have a visual interface, and she's absolutely correct.
Oh, yeah.
Not only does she have a visual interface, but is an extremely well-designed one where a lot of thought went into how do you present information, how do you visually distinguish different kinds of information. That rolling dialogue that is created as you interact is just a thing of beauty.
Well, Steve, we finally got widgets, but they're all inside Siri. We don't get them on the screen, just in Siri.
Yeah, kind of funny the way that worked out. But, once again, I just kind of love that because, one thing, I'm one of those old fogies who doesn't text or usually even talk on the phone when I'm driving. Well, I find myself now sending text messages just by holding up the iPhone and doing that. And I like it. And
it's magical.
Yeah.
It is.
See, I could go there. Perhaps not the iPad too, but I can go to Siri as being a completely different manner of interfacing. Though there's been voice controls for the iPhone and drag-in dictation and other things, but they integrated it so beautifully.
And it understands context and relationship, and it's got a good back-end source of knowledge.
They made it easy and useful.
I'm still waiting for the interface from that Firefox movie where I can think in Russian and have it do all sorts of wonderful things. I'll be willing to
speak it if you can speak to it in German. You're good to go.
All right, Georgia, this I put in the show notes just because you and I and Seth had a couple knockdown, drag-out fights about Flash's place on iOS. And it turns out not only did Steve Jobs agree with Seth and me, but Adobe has finally rolled over and realized that Flash Mobile isn't the greatest user experience in the multiverse. Are you shocked?
It's not that I'm shocked, and it's not even that I can say that it is the best. The reason that I want to have Flash on my phone is not because it is the best manner of which to interface, but that a lot of the websites that I go to use Flash, and I would like to be able to take a look at a restaurant and find out the phone number on my phone, just as I would on my laptop. And actually, I just got so frustrated that a lot of the videos from CNN I still couldn't see, that I installed Flash on my Air. I know everyone's in the chat are going to trash me for that, but I just want to be able to use my phone and see all of them. It might be crappy, but I want to have the choice to use it.
I want that choice to have my crap. Yeah. Seth, you're smiling.
Eric, what is your feeling on the entire Flash issue?
I think Steve is the better person to respond to this because Flash is just something that happens to other people for me.
Much like Seth and myself and all good-hearted people.
Wow. I'm not going to answer that. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it was.
Do you ever use the iPhone and become frustrated that you cannot see a site or get a number that you may want to get?
No, because I have Siri on my phone, and I can usually ask, and the number is usually there in, the Google or whatever. So how is that for an answer? No, the other thing.
Well played, Steve. Well played.
Is on occasion, if I do absolutely have to go to a website that uses Flash, I will. In fact, I'm trying to bring this up here right now because I can't remember the name of the browser.
Skyfire?
No, it's the other Puffin. And Puffin or Skyfire, either one of them, they're not perfect. The video is very jerky, but if I want to use something or go to a website that has Flash, that's what I'm going to use. They work not very well, but they work. Puffire, I like that. Somebody said.
You think this is a port in Georgia that now that Flash is Adobe's gonna stop work developing Flash mobile, that slowly and surely more websites, if they want to be mobile, are gonna have to make non-Flash versions, and it'll naturally go away, that problem that you're having?
Unfortunately, a lot of people that run websites are they create the website at one time and then they just leave it, and they don't care and or know that a whole bunch of people cannot see their website until they go to complain. And myself, I'll find another way to find out whatever I want to, or go to a different restaurant, or just not go to their site while I'm on my phone. So I think that there'll always be a certain percentage that will get slower and slower as most people switch to HTML5 that I'm not going to be able to see. So I think the problem's going to happen slowly.
For me, it's like the slow death of ActiveX. It's like one of those things I get to watch and enjoy as it torturously ends its tortured existence.
Well, one thing that, I know we were talking about, I think on one of the podcasts today, one of the many.
They all blur.
Where is this going to go? Where is this technology going? And you can already see some things. For instance, I think folks were saying that it used to engage Yelp a lot more. You could actually do some reservations, do different things like that. I would love to see integration with OpenTable, which would be fantastic. Or how about integration with something like one of the taxi apps? Those were just so cool when they first came out a couple of years ago, because I remember being at Macworld Expo and we were all going, "Call me a taxi." And
You're a taxi.
which is a bad thing to ask Siri, by the way. She will call you a taxi from now. But it was so great. If you could have that capability, once they get the API out there, and the developers really start doing a lot of integration of Siri into all of these fantastic apps that are out there, it's going to be great.
So do we have a little funeral? Do we do a procession for Flash Mobile? Do we?
No.
Okay, go ahead, everyone. You guys can throw your party.
No, it doesn't deserve that. We're moving on.
We're moving on.
Yeah, they're going to continue to provide bug fixes for all our Android, WebOS, and Playbook using friends, but they're not going to develop new versions for them. You're gonna have to go to HTML5. The other interesting thing, and this I think is something that I'm actually interested in hearing both Seth and Erica's point of view. You did a DevJuice post, Erica, where you said, when should you use out-of-app settings? And that's become increasingly, I think, fractious and confusing, because now I don't reliably know where to go for my settings anymore.
Yeah, it was a great article.
Well, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, and part of the API were setting bundles. And Apple spake unto the people, saying, Forsooth, thou shalt put thy settings in the settings application. And the developers did so. And the people of the earth received the applications and looked at them and rejoiced in them and asked, Wherefore are the settings? Because they are not in the app. And therefore they never found them. And the settings withered and fell away over time because the discoverability of the settings app was nigh upon zero.
That's awesome.
Was that a bit too detailed, or was that kind of what you were looking for?
No, I think that's true. I think there's a hard. Well, Seth, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's still a hard line set of developers who insist on putting them in settings app, and another set who only put them in the app, and some who kind of mix and match, which I find even.
Yeah, that actually makes me crazier than choosing one or the other, because I'll figure it out whether it's in the app or out of the app. Although I very much prefer when it's just built into the app, because I don't want to have to flip between two separate apps just to change, maybe a visual setting that I need to see in order to decide if I like it. But splitting it between the two, like a lot of apps do that, where they put some of it is in the app, some of it's in settings, some of it is redundant, but then you look and there's one or two things in one place that's not in the other. That ought to be punishable by severe beating.
Right, or sometimes you
Let
have
me
to
make
do
it
both.
clear, though. There is a commandment here. And perhaps I wasn't quite making the commandment clear. I'm gonna just come forth and say it, which is basically, if you want your users to discover your settings, put them in the app.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to keep the settings the hell away from your users, put them in the settings app. And you do that for kiosk use. You use it for any sort of public demonstration where there's always going to be one guy in the audience. You know that guy who's going to mess with stuff. You want to hide it from him, put it in the settings app. If you're giving things to the disabled, where stray touches might be an issue, or if you're dealing with very young children, settings apps are perfect for that. The other use is when you want to have things that are for remote diagnostics. In other words, if you are the service tech who's making a phone call to somebody to provide this, you then say, okay, I need you to get out of the application, press that home button, go to the first page, look for that gray settings app, go in there, and you talk the person through it, because it is a different way of using the app. If changing a preference is part of the normal path that your user is supposed to engage in, it belongs in the application itself. Otherwise, get it the heck out of there.
Or maybe Seth, ditch it entirely.
Well, we've talked about that too. If on Iterate, we said most users never bother to change settings, or they do and it causes them problems that they don't understand. So yeah, if you think that you've got use cases ironed out, figure out the way you want people to use your app, account for all the things you think they're going to need, and be judicious about what you show them. And maybe that's nothing. Maybe what you give them is plenty for them to get by. And especially if you start putting things in and then take things away, people hate that even more, even if they never touch it.
Right. So anytime that you are in need to change a setting that is inside the application, it should be inside the application. So you don't have to leave the application in order to use it and then go back to it after. But what about something like notifications and or location services, which has a main setting inside the settings that you might have turned off in the first place? Would that be something that you would have to end up going to the settings anyways and having to either enable them if you so wish them to work with your application?
That's one thing that I'm actually really confused about with iOS 5, because some apps still have notification settings built into them, and then there's also Notification Center, and I'm like, well, if I turn it off here, does it turn it off there, or am I still going to see a badge here when I think it's not going to be there? So as of right now, that's not even as well defined as it probably needs to be if people are actually poking around like I am. But it's it's questionable. It's a lot of, like Erica said, if you want people to play with it, then put it where they can see it. Otherwise, leave it alone. And of course, since Notification Center is now a hub, a part of settings.app, it's probably safe to put things there because that's where people are now being trained to look.
Yeah.
I've got a question for Steve, and it's semi-facetious. We saw, Charlie Miller released an app into the App Store, and it didn't have a lot of settings, but it did have an exploit. Is that a fair way to show Apple that they have security problems?
Well, you got to admit that it's only one app that we know of that had the security issue. But, I think it does really kind of speak to Apple. Guys, if you're going to be so proud of your security and your wonderful walled garden, you really need to make sure that there are no nasty little exploits out there. I don't know if that's going to be a wake-up call for them. That'll be interesting to see. But
so if I understand this right, Apple added just-in-time compilation to make Safari faster, and it's not supposed to be able to do anything beyond make Safari faster. But Charlie Miller, who's famous for exploiting Apple and winning MacBook Airs for it, I think, on a yearly basis, discovered an edge use case where he could, in fact, wreak havoc and chaos. Submitted instead of calling up Apple, as far as we know, he didn't inform them. He just put an app on the App Store as a proof of concept. Apple has since taken it down and booted him out of the program, the developer program, and he was aghast at that discovery. Seth,
I'm not sure, Rene, but I think that I'd heard that he had actually let them know beforehand and they didn't do anything about it. And then a week or something later, he then decided to submit it.
Perhaps. I'm not clear on that either. Is a week long enough? At what point do you... I don't believe he's going to disclose it, I believe, at his talk. It's coming up. He hasn't disclosed what the exploit is. But Seth, what do you take away from all this? Is this an Apple issue? Is this a Charlie Miller issue? Is this an everybody issue?
Well, it's an Apple issue because the hole was there, right? They had... This all relates to the Nitro JavaScript stuff, right? This is what he actually got the exploit to work through.
Was it, Erica? Do you know what the details of the exploit were? Was it a compilation issue, a JavaScript issue?
I am not familiar with the details of the exploit.
I'm not either. It was the JIT compiler that he did get into, though.
All right. So regardless of us being horribly misinformed or uninformed, and myself included in that, it's definitely an Apple issue because it's part of the system, and they're over the years, especially as they've made plays into enterprise, they've played up their security a lot, and that was a big thing 2 years ago with the introduction of iOS 3, again last year with iOS 4, and so it definitely plants the seed of doubt, possibly, where it needn't have been planted, but it's such a small thing, and it's so isolated that I think it's not really going to do a whole lot of damage. In any case, is it a user thing? Not really, because if you're basically staying, coloring in the lines, you really have nothing to worry about, because chances are you don't have any apps that are going to exploit it, and now that it's out in the wild, Apple is going to plug it. So if you're just a user downloading apps and doing your thing, you really don't have to concern yourself with it. But it is an issue at some level just because now we know about it.
Jacko playing in the chat room is saying... Sorry, Georgia.
Oh, sorry. And it is the Nitro JavaScript engine, which is faster because it uses the JIT compilation.
And Jacko playing in the chat room is saying it's a code signing exploit. He was able to execute unsigned code due to an edge case in that JIT. The other thing that was...
And I think that was code that was downloaded, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So that it could basically Trojan horse its way onto your phone, download code, get root access, and then,
commit evil.
Take over the world. Yeah, commit evil.
Well, that was the whole thing with Apple, is that it's a trade-off, right? Because the just-in-time compilation increases speed, but it loosens security. It's always that trade-off between security and convenience, and Apple kind of gambled that they could have a little bit of both. And I guess they will, whatever 5.0.1 or 0.2 or 5.1 will fix this, and then Miller will find another exploit.
They need to hire him.
They've been hiring a lot of people lately.
Yeah.
They found a secret panorama mode in the iPhone camera app, and you can, Well, you're nodding your head, Steve. Are you already using this? Are you already using this?
I think it'd be great for them to build it in. I've used probably every panorama app out there. I love taking panorama photos. I think it would just be great to have it built right in. I love doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You think, Georgia, they're waiting, like they have it ready to go, but they're waiting for a future software update so that they can make it an extra feature?
Yeah, I think they're just testing it out, and it happens to be one of those dormant things that are left over from when they're testing. So hopefully they'll be able to come out with it really soon, because I enjoy taking panorama shots. Well, I enjoy taking pictures of everything anyways, but I enjoy taking panorama shots as well, so I think it would be great for the phone.
Did anyone do the plist trick to, you remove the backup, you edit the plist, and you restore the backup to get it working? I haven't yet.
No.
Yeah, I just couldn't find the time.
All right, this is something you wrote up too, Steve. The judge has told Apple in Australia that they have to show their contracts to Samsung, which just sounds so terribly rude.
Yes. Well, that entire situation is just getting out of hand. I mean, you've got Samsung and Apple fighting on practically every continent. I don't think they've actually gone in and done any lawsuits or patent infringement, injunctions that they want in Africa, but, I'm sure it'll happen any day. But, come on. What they're doing is, as part of this, trying to make Apple look bad by saying, we want to prove through looking at your contracts with the various Australian carriers that you are subsidizing, or the carriers are subsidizing the cost of the phone. And it's like, subsidizing is something that carriers have done for years to be able to get...
You're using the defense.
Yeah.
And they also wanted to see the source code for iOS 5, and they wanted Johnny Ive on the witness seat, and I think they wanted Tim Cook's birthday cards.
Yeah, and absolutely everything else. Yeah, I think the funniest comment in the entire post was something about, what the heck was it? But anyway.
My favorite this week was HTC's filing and Apple's response that Apple denies its name as Apple, Incorporated. Apple's actual name is Apple Incorporated. There is no comma.
That was awesome.
I could just picture Denny Crane doing that.
Refile everything.
Yeah.
They're suing the wrong person, Judge. Denny Crane. We just
send it back. Send it back. Just kill them with lawyers' fees.
That's the interesting thing, is that Apple is fighting so many of these lawsuits in so many continents and so many jurisdictions at one time. And they're winning some and they're losing some, and there's all these different.
It's the scorched earth kind of theory, though. Apple has the money to be able to go to battle with Samsung and practically everyone else right now, and everyone else is going to have to cough up a whole bunch of fees at the same time as they do. So in the end, Apple could use the same thing to say, listen, if you're going to sue us, if you're going to come after us, sure, we'll play with you and we'll deal with it and we'll keep it in the courts for long as you can, and we'll both be wasting a whole bunch of money from it. So I think that in this one, the person with the more money and the better lawyers are going to win. Though that they have to give out their source code just seems so ridiculous to me. So.
You think it's going to, because that famous saying from the Steve Jobs book, Seth, that he's going to go thermonuclear over this, that Android is stolen property, and Eric Schmidt said it wasn't. We used to have a BlackBerry, now we have an iPhone, deal with it. But do you think that now that Tim Cook is running things, there'll be a change in how badly they want to go after Android, or do you think that Cook takes it just as personally as Jobs?
I don't know. I feel like Tim is much more measured and less emotionally affected by stuff. I don't think he takes things quite as personally, but I mean, he probably feels very strongly about it and probably is willing to defend things where they need to be defended. But I don't see him saying those kinds of things, resorting to the kind of hyperbole that Steve did, only because he's so much more of a numbers guy.
He's almost a Vulcan.
Yeah, like he's just so calculating. I don't see him saying that, but I'm sure that they'll just keep kind of stomping on that when they need to, just to advance, their agenda.
It's kind of interesting, Erica. I don't know if you have any feeling about this one way or another, but it seems like Microsoft keeps getting licensing deals because they want to make Android more expensive, and Apple does not want licensing agreements. They want to have features removed from Android to make it less usable or less friendly.
You're assuming that Android is not on its own without any external interference, self-destructing and splintering.
Barnes and Nobles and Amazon reference taken.
Yep.
So, I don't know. Steve and I are about to get our first Android units.
Yes, we are.
What are you getting?
I've got another one, but I won't talk about that.
Galaxy Nexuses all around, Droid Razors.
No. Steve?
Are they Kindle Fires? Are they Kindle Fires, Steve?
Yes, they are.
Here's the thing I keep asking about the Kindle Fire is that it looks like a fantastic device that the minute you leave the U.S. border becomes a paperweight. And I don't understand how Apple can make so much money internationally.
I have to jump in here.
Yes.
A paperweight should be at least a pound.
Okay, fair enough.
It should be substantial, small, round, preferably. Come on.
Yeah, no, that's true. I just wish that Apple makes so much money internationally. I wish companies like Amazon, and even it took Google forever to offer international support. I wish they would be as aggressive as Apple in rolling things out internationally.
Yeah.
There's an easy solution to this, and it's one that all the Canadians always get cranky about.
Move? You want me to move?
No, that would try again. No. I was thinking of, adding like 7 or 8 more states.
Oh, yeah, we could do that. We're America's hat as it is.
Oh, I thought that actually they meant that the U.S. is going to come to us.
Yeah, there'll be 52 new provinces.
That's it. Exactly. Free medical and schooling for everyone. Come join in.
The 51st and 52nd one.
We're taking the territories too. Puerto Rico deserves provincehood, damn it.
And Guam?
Yeah, Guam too.
About the Virgin Islands.
You know what? Those are nice. I would love to be able to just easily go to Virgin Islands. Canadian Virgin Islands has a certain ring to it. All of them. We'll take a package deal. We'll sweeten it.
Do I have to do anything in this plan?
You have to stay in Jersey.
All right, that's fine. I'm down with it then.
We get the better beer.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
mean, we do not annex you unless you bring the beer with you.
But unfortunately, Alan Thicke could travel back to below the border, so it's not.
Oh.
And we're not taking Celine Dion back. Sorry.
Yeah, but even
I thought you were going to say Bieber.
our
Okay.
Constitution will go on.
You can always hope. It'll be a very polite constitution, though.
Yes.
All right, excellent. So, Stephen, can you please tell us where we can find out more about you and your excellent book?
You can find out more about the wonderful book, and we'll once again say the name, Talking to Siri, Learning the Language of Apple's Intelligent Assistant. At this time, it's only in the Amazon bookstore and the Kindle bookstore, and Erica just put it over there in the chat.
And it'll be in the show notes, too.
Yeah, we're in the process of getting it into the Apple iBook store, and guess what?
Wait, you should hear the story on that.
Yeah, it is a bit of a pain in the butt.
Does it involve sacrifice and trips over the mountains? Okay.
I couldn't believe all the chickens I had to kill. It's just to get it uploaded. You know, the next thing we're going to be looking at is hopefully getting it approved. But it's sitting out there right now saying it is not available for sale in 6 countries.
Is there private APIs in your book, Steve? Is that what's going on here?
That's it. You absolutely figured it out. But, yeah, hopefully it'll be in the iBook store soon.
Awesome, and we'll put that link.
Seriously, if you want us back for like an hour and a half show, we will tell you about what it took to submit to iBooks. I mean, it was not a little thing. If you want to put a book on Kindle, if you have an Amazon account, you can go over there. You can get your book submitted tonight.
Nice.
You know, done, dusted. The thing will be for sale like in a day or so. iBooks is like approaching a sacred priesthood where you have to have the exact divine incantations, not to mention the special herbs and spices, not to mention the incense, the chanting, the obsequience.
It sounds like a Wicca get-together.
It's the numbers from Lost. You need the numbers from Lost.
I have the numbers for Lost. We'll get together after and help you out.
Have you been to a Wicca get-together? These are lovely people.
Compared to Apple, yeah.
I have some friends, actually.
And how about you, Steve? Where can we find out more about you?
More about me, just go over to TUAW. You'll find me anytime. Or if you happen to be really, really bored and want to see a very unprofessional podcast compared to this one, which is really nice, I got to hand it to you guys. This is really well done. And I'm writing notes down on what you're using. But every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, the show TUAW TV Live is on over at TUAW.com or ustream.tv/TUAW. So.
You are far too modest. I have been on that show. Leanna has been on that show. It is a fabulous production. It is like the Conan O'Brien show of gadget podcasts.
Whoa.
That's not me, I swear.
It wasn't me.
And we can also find you at Steve and Sandy on Twitter, right?
That's correct, sir.
Awesome. And Erica, where can we find out more about you?
God, outside of TUAW, do I have a life?
Victor might be listening. Don't answer that.
Siri, how do we find Erica?
I cannot connect to the network. Please try your request again later.
Oh, I follow you on Twitter, so I know you're there.
Twitter is, I hang out on Twitter a lot. I hang out, over at TUAW a lot. And
what's your Twitter address?
I don't seem to have a life other than that. I have a website, but I rarely go visit it.
What are you on Twitter? It's at Erica Sadun?
Yes, because I am that original.
No, I mean, it's nice. You have an accountability behind you. If you were just some faceless name, we would never know who it was doing all those awesome things. And speaking of which, Erica, most recently, at least in the Awesome Things universe, besides this book, you also did some fantastic stuff with AirPlay early on, which was really, really cool.
Thank you. Lots of times, not a lot of reward, but it was cool to go there.
I just want Apple to let me AirPlay from my Mac. Just make it really simple to AirPlay anything from my Mac.
I'm pretty sure it will, and it will do it soon. In the meantime, there's Bruce.
Yes. And there's also Banana TV, which does the reverse.
Yeah, Banana TV, we kind of just we got tired of trying to chase Apple.
Okay.
So Banana TV's on a break.
All right. It's on recess, but hopefully the bell will ring and we'll get it back.
It's seeking therapy, trying to come to terms with its relationship with Apple, because that kind of relationship with an abusive boyfriend, you love him, he's so awesome, but he doesn't treat you very well.
I hate you, don't leave me.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Seth, where can we find out more about you?
At Seth Clifford on Twitter. You can find me on Iterate with Rene and Mark Edwards of Django on iPad Live. And if you'd like to check out our site, some of the apps and sites that we work on, it's nfidm.com. We're Nickelfish.
Damn it.
Yes.
Awesome. And Georgia, where can we find out more about you?
You can find me at iPad Live, iPhone Live, Zen and Tech, and the new show, Girls Gone Gadgets. And, of course, on Twitter at Georgia TIPB.
And if you want a reminder to get an iPhone 4S or upgrade to iOS 5, just go ahead and tweet in her general direction.
That's evil.
Seth made me say that.
No, I did not.
I so believe that.
You can find me at Rene Ritchie. You can find all of us at Tippy, except for Erica and Steve. You can find them at TUAW. But the rest of us you can find at Tippy. You can email us at podcast@tippy.com or leave a comment when the podcast goes live. We are here each and every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. I lost track of British time, but I believe it's 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock Greenwich Mean Time. I'll get yelled at very soon and correct that. We also have our companion show, iPad Live. Georgia, when is that?
Same bat time, same bat channel on Sunday nights.
Awesome. And you can catch those at www.tippy.com/live. We do them in audio and video now, so you can find them on video at youtube.com/mobilenations. You can subscribe to the audio or the video in iTunes. Please do. Please leave a rating. It lets iTunes know that you love the show and it features the show. And more people can find it so that we can have more wonderful people in the chat room. And thank you to the chat room for joining us. For all of our podcasts, including the ones Seth and Georgia mentioned, for Crackberry, for Android Central, we have a new show starting tomorrow, Stock Talk. Check out mobilenations.com/shows. Have a great evening, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.